What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, talking today about Battlefield V, because now we have the official launch numbers and some early sales digits, and it's kind of interesting to see that this game is officially a giant failure. It sold almost 0 copies during its opening weeks, and honestly, that is a little bit shocking to me, because typically the Battlefield games fly off store shelves. This is Electronic Arts' most profitable franchises, and so seeing it go from a monolith to a flat-out 0 so fast is something that's a little bit baffling. I mean, I am a huge fan of Battlefield 1. That game was so tight and so cool, so seeing in just 2 short years going from big to bomb is kind of baffling. So I really kind of want to highlight what the heck happened. Why exactly did Battlefield 5 fail? Well, I really think it comes down to 3 main reasons. The first being, they seriously screwed up their press. I mean, trying to talk to people about your game is really, really important, especially now. We live in a time that I like to call the hype-verse, where people like to not only play a game, but be excited about a game. Looking forward to that next big project, talking to your friends about it, going online and kind of just making cool fan art of it is part of the enjoyment. That's part of the experience. So if you come out and start disrespecting your fans or saying some stuff that's pretty stupid, you are going to be facing some giant backlash. And normally backlash in the current sense means losing fans, and they really shouldn't have done that. Now, what I'm talking about specifically is when they started hyping this game up around summer, they started doing a lot of interviews, directors, art people just kind of coming out and talking about what exactly Battlefield 5 was going to be. And from the start, something about this was a little bit peculiar, which is that they were very, very clear that this wasn't going to really focus on historical accuracy, which personally I'm pretty okay with. As long as a game is fun, I don't care if there's like zombies or laser beams, I just want a game to be cool. But what's really weird is that some people did have an issue with this. They wanted to make sure that every gun and every character was as historically strict as it could be, and when they heard this, the directors were a little bit abrasive. In fact, one of them officially said, "Look man, if you like our game, buy it, but if you don't, we don't care. Either buy it or don't, neither matters to us." Now, obviously, that was a horrendously stupid thing to say because it ended up being a soundbite that just kept getting circled. Everybody used that quote all the freaking time because even though that was just one sentence in 100 different interviews, it ended up becoming the main quote that just haunted this game's release. Anytime people talked about being excited for Battlefield 5, people would just say, "Don't like it, don't buy it." Or a lot of times, even shorter than that, they just say, "Don't buy it." You never want to tell people not to support your work because, honestly, they'll do it. People don't need to be encouraged to leave you behind, and if you ask them to, they're going to. I also think that there's definitely an issue with the fact that, well, Electronic Arts definitely was trying to make the most money they possibly could off this with some rather scummy tactics. And one of those was the fact that this is one of those games that had a lot of different versions and each one of them had a separate release date. I hate games that do this, and honestly, this is probably the worst example I've ever seen of it. So what I'm talking about is the fact that if you decide to pay for the premium EA Access app, this is basically like a special program you sign up for and pay an additional cost for, you could play the game 15 days early, which is a huge, huge head start, especially because you could play so much freaking multiplayer and learn maps before anybody else could log in. Then, a couple days after that, people were able to get the game 5 days before launch if they bought the $80 copy. Once again, this is a pretty scummy move because you're literally rewarding the people who are willing to pay more for nothing that's really more in the game. You're not getting additional content, you're just paying an additional price. And then finally, the people who bought the normal $60 version were able to play on the 20th. How weird is it that this game has probably only been out about a week, but it's been being played on servers for almost an entire month? That is such a bafflingly bad move and ended up horribly confusing consumers. Keep in mind, the average Battlefield fan probably doesn't spend a ton of time online or skulking around in Battlefield forums. I think that a majority of that audience is people who just see the games on shelves, buy them, play them, move on with their life. So suddenly trying to confuse that demographic, the casual Battlefield fans, was such a bad move. I mean, really, think about the guy who's just trying to pick the game up and he tries to Google, when does Battlefield 5 come out? And there is a huge spreadsheet. Seriously, I'm going to put that chart on the screen right here. If you are trying to release a game, don't make it where people need to make a chart explaining when you can log in. This game has so many bad moves surrounding it. But at the end of the day, the biggest problem is the fact that the game itself sucks. I mean, I've definitely seen games that managed to kind of get over bad PR because it ended up being terrific, or even having a really bad release window because it's just so good that people are basically tearing their eyes out to grab a copy. But here's the issue at the end of the day. I reviewed Battlefield 5. I played a ton of hours of it. Multiplayer, single player, everything I could. And it's just not great. In fact, it totally sucks. And that's kind of the biggest issue of all. Following up a game as big and successful as Battlefield 1 was, it really had a lot weighing on its shoulders, but I do believe that they probably had a good idea in mind. Trying to make a more expanded and fictionalized version of World War II could have been really, really epic, but the problem was that the storyline modes sucked, the multiplayer was really, really floaty, and the upgrades were really, really limited. It's one of those multiplayer games that never really motivated me to keep logging in. After I won a couple matches and managed to upgrade my sniper rifle all the way, I just quit, and I never really had the urge to go back. It's a testament to the fact that this is a game with some very fundamental design flaws, but motivation was a big part of it. This game was going to be a dumpster fire no matter what, I suppose, but what's really kind of interesting to me is the fact that I think that Electronic Arts knew this was coming. That's probably part of the reason that they did that giant last-minute delay. Because remember, after the beta, the feedback was universally negative. People were in panic mode because this game suddenly came out, was playable by the fans, and everybody was basically like, what the hell? So they decided to tap the brakes and try and stall to have more time to try and polish it up. So now we have the most refined version of Battlefield 5, and it is still a total dumpster fire. I do think that this game is going to basically die off relatively quick. In the past, there have been some shooters that end up getting a big shelf life later on, like Titanfall 2. That game had such a huge fan base after the fact, and even its own little competitive community, because it was so tight and so well designed that it has almost an infinite skill ceiling. Whereas a game like Battlefield 5 that only has like a 5-hour campaign, really lackluster characters, and while it does have cool graphics, it doesn't really have any weight to the world. It makes it where it's a game that you just treat like popcorn. You chew on it, the flavor is decent, and then immediately you forget that you ever even had it. I'm still just kind of sad about this because at the end of the day, I am a Battlefield fan. I wanted this game to be great, and really, it had the potential to try and rise to new heights. Combining the original efforts of Battlefield 1 with the setting of World War II could have been magnificent, but instead, it turned into another Electronic Arts mess. I really just hope they learn their lesson, because at this point, they just keep taking bad hits. Battlefield 2, when it came out, or Battlefront 2, cost them millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars in investor money, and now it's starting to look like they're going to get another hit. Electronic Arts, you need to save yourself, and the only path to do that is making good games that the fans like. But what do you guys think? What do you think is the main reason that caused this game to just freaking flop? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Hey, this is Max in the future. I was actually editing the video and I just wanted to try and answer a question that I'm sure a lot of people are going to ask in the comments, which is, do I think that EA is going to learn their lesson? And honestly, no. I think that this game bombing is not going to teach them a lesson whatsoever. So it's just one of those things where Electronic Arts, as good as they are at publishing games sometimes, they just are somebody that constantly rushes to create that next big project and they don't really take time to analyze their mistakes. So yes, I totally think that if this game was bad, maybe don't trust anything by Electronic Arts for another couple months until they really kind of pick up these pieces. All right, I gotta edit this. Oh, hey, I was just playing a little bit of Grand Theft Auto on my Darth Vader PSP. Are you curious what I'm going to come out with next? Well, if you click this button, you'll be subscribed to be the first to know. Also, if you click over here and here, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. I promise, it was super good. Or it was really bad and I'm sure you can just make fun of me in the comments. Either way, it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching.